So my water breaks, and the moment my water broke, it felt like the best relief ever. No lie, it low-key felt like you were coming off of an orgasm. I know that sounds like really crazy, but because of the amount of pressure and pain I was experiencing, as soon as that water broke, it was like a sudden release, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then contraction hit, and that shit, I thought the back pain I had before was bad. That shit was no joke. It was so bad. I was like, I can't believe I even put myself in this predicament. What the heck? So my sister walks up at the same time, and she's like, okay, like this, that, and the other. They get this nurse to put an IV into my hand. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that I'm pointing to a certain position on my hand. It's like, I guess, what do you call this? Lateral to where my thumb is. On my left hand side, because they're like, are you right-handed, left-handed? I was like, right-handed. So they put on my left hand side. So that nurse literally poked me like 8 times, and my sister was so pissed because she works in a hospital. So she was like, get somebody else. You don't know what you're doing? Get someone else right now, because I'm screaming. Mind you, I'm terrified of needles, guys. So I don't like needles, scared of needles. I'm a lot better now, but back then I was really, really bad. And so I'm like hollering and screaming in so much pain. And it's not even from the contractions anymore. It's from her digging this needle into my arm. It was so painful. I was like, I cannot right now. Like, I literally cannot. So she's digging this damn needle into my arm. My sister's like, nope, get off of her and bring somebody else. So she goes and gets another nurse. She comes and she's like, I can't find her vein. If you guys have ever seen me, you can see my veins, especially like back then I was a lot thinner, so you can like, and a little bit lighter, so you can definitely see my veins. So when she said, I can't see your veins, like I can't find your vein, my sister got pissed and told her to move and go get her supervisor. Supervisor comes in and was like, bloop, got the vein. I was like, you freaking asshole, like what the heck? So they're like, we're gonna wheel you up to your room is ready. So they, put me on the table. I get on another bed and they wheel me up, upstairs to the room. Now, this is a brand new, at the time they had just did the maternity ward over at Kaiser Sunset. They had just redid it. It's a new building. It was beautiful. I had did the tour and I loved it. It was lots of space. So we get upstairs, we get into my room, and I also am, for the YouTube watchers, I would insert pictures of me going into my room and stuff, because they were snapping away. And I told my sister, make sure you record everything. We'll get to the recording though. There's a reason why I don't have a birth video on YouTube. So we get to the room, and then they're like, okay, do you want to get your epidural? I'm like, yeah, I want to get my epidural. Give me the drugs. And so they go, can you sign this paperwork? I said, I signed everything I needed to sign 2 weeks ago. They were like, we need you to sign this too, please. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So I'm like, just give me a pen. I just write a bullshit line on there. Just give me the freaking drugs. I don't care anymore. And they're like, okay, we'll have the anesthesiologist come through and they're going to, prep everything. They were really, really fast. They came in 10 minutes. So low-key, I think they had everything ready. They were like, she already signed her paperwork, but we just gonna have her do it again just in case we want to make sure, she still wants to do this. So I signed the paperwork, and they're like, we can only have one person in the room with you. Who's it gonna be? At this time, it's still my sister and my mom. So I'm like, well, come on, mom. Because they're like, you're gonna have to sit like this. You're gonna hunch over. There's gonna be a pillow. Your mom's gonna hold you. We're gonna insert. Please do not move. They kept repeating, please do not move. You can become crippled if you move. If we, if you move and something goes wrong, you can be crippled for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this shit. Just give me the drugs. I don't even care at this point, because I feel like I can't feel my legs anyway. It's my back that's killing me. So I lean over, and they're like, okay, so you're going to feel a little pinch. Didn't feel shit. You're going to feel another little pinch. Didn't feel shit. They're like, you're going to feel lots of pressure. Didn't feel shit. They're like, okay, we're going to administer the medication right now. Felt cold. It felt like ice. I was like, oh, it felt so amazing. Because mind you, my back was on fire at this point. It felt amazing. It was just cooling. And then I can really feel my legs like that. And I was like, yes, drugs. That's all I need. They were like, you didn't feel anything? I was like, no, I didn't feel you put a needle in. I didn't feel you numb me. No, nothing. They were like, that's amazing. That's great. So my experience with my epidural was pretty good as far as getting it, because I didn't feel myself actually getting it. it just felt cold to me. And I was like, yes, thanks a lot, I appreciate it. So I lay down and I'm just like, okay, how long is it gonna take to like fully kick in? And they're like, it shouldn't take too long. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like, did you eat anything? I'm like, no, it's fucking now at the point 9:00 in the morning. I haven't eaten anything. And they're like, okay, because we need you to have an empty stomach just in case we have to do an emergency C-section. I can't get no snacks. I can't get no cookies. Y'all got a Subway downstairs. I can't get no cookies. They were like, you can't have anything but these ice chips. I don't want no ice chips. I want some food. So after they gave me my epidural, my sweetheart walked in. He's like, hey. I'm like, where the hell was you at? He was like, I'm not, you know me. She woke me up and then I went back to sleep and then I got back up and then I got dressed and mom cussed me out. And I'm like, I don't even care no more. Like, the baby's not here. You're fine. You're fine. You made it. So everyone's chopping it up. My room is huge. There's TVs, there's chairs and couches and pull out whatever else is. And we're just like chilling. And they're like, you hungry? Like, my sweetheart goes, you hungry? I'm hungry. Y'all want something to eat? And I'm like, yeah, I want something to eat. They're like, you can't have anything. And I'm like, oh no. Like, you guys, if I can't eat, y'all can't eat. Y'all not about to eat up in my face. Child, they took their ass downstairs. Got some food because there was a couple restaurants. They got some food. They were gone for maybe like 20 minutes. And then they came back upstairs and I'm like, sneak me a piece of that cookie right now. I just need just a slither, just a little taste. Give me a crumb of the cookie. And they gave me a little crumb of the cookie and they were like, that's all you can have, nothing else. And I know y'all probably like, you can't do that. That's dangerous. Shut up, mind your business. And yeah. So we're sitting there and I'm like, okay, I feel, they're like, do you feel the contractions? I was like, it just feels like a little annoyance in the back of my mind, but I don't feel it like I did before. And so we're talking, we're chopping it up. Clifford's trying to watch the game. I'm like, no, it's all about me. I wasn't like that. But I mean, in my mind, I probably was like, it's all about me. Don't watch TV. Talk to me. This is my last time just being me by myself. Now it's always gonna be me and a baby, or me and a toddler, or me and me and a kid. And everyone's like, I mean, we don't really have much to talk about. It's 8:00 in the morning, 9:00 in the morning. It's 1:00 in the morning. So I was there from, I'll say like 8:30, 9:00 to, until I had the baby around 6. So I was like hungry. They were like going to the cafeteria. They were getting food. And I'm just like, I'm hungry. Around 2 or 3 o'clock, I noticed that I started feeling a little bit more pain. They were like, well, whenever you feel a little bit more pain, just press the button. So I'm like, okay, give me the button, press it. I tried to take a nap and I started to feel it and it kind of woke me up. So I pressed the button and I'm like, I don't really feel nothing, but I'm like, maybe it's not going to hit me like it did the first time. It's not going to be cold like the first time. So I'm just going to give it some time. But I gradually kept feeling more pain and I'm like, I don't know. So around 4 o'clock, I press the button. They come in, they're coming in and out of the room. They're checking you. They're like, okay, you're this many centimeters, you're that many centimeters. I was progressing, at a good speed. And I'm pressing this button and I'm like, something not right. So around like 4:30, I'm like, I told the nurse, like, something's wrong with my epidural machine because I'm really starting to feel these contractions. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. She's like, press the button. And I pressed it. She was like, well, it does take a little bit to administer and like really get into your system for you to feel it. I was like, no, like I've been pressing this for like 3 hours. Like, I don't feel shit. I'm starting to feel this for real. And she's like, well, we don't want you to be completely numb. I'm like, it's not about being completely numb. Like, I can feel the shit. Like, that's what I'm saying. So they're like, okay, let's check to see what's going on. So they go out the room. Mind you, now there's like an audience because doctors are coming in and they're like listening to the baby's heartbeat. And they're like, we might have to prep you for an emergency C-section. And as soon as I said that, I said, for what? They like lift up they pull down the covers, lift up my gown and start to shave the bottom of my stomach. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? What's going on? And they're like, well, are you listening to his heartbeat? Like, do you hear that drop in his heartbeat as you're coming off your contractions? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's not good. That means the baby's in distress. I'm like, the baby's in distress. So what does that mean? Like, what do we need to do? They're like, well, if this continues to happen and, it happens and you're not progressing fast enough with your dilation, we're going to have to give you an emergency C-section. I said, you're not cutting me. And they're like, but man, you're not cutting me. So you're going to have to find another way to get this baby out. Mind you, I'm like 8 centimeters at the time. I was like, you're going to have to find another way to get this baby out. And they're like, well, because I had 3 different doctors. I had 3 doctors that were standing there, and they were like, one of them was fine as hell. I ain't even gonna hold you. He was fine. He looks like Jax from Sons of Anarchy. He was fine. But he's like, well, this is kind of like standard procedure. If something's going on with the baby, we're gonna have to cut you open. I was like, well, I'm sure there's another way to get the baby out without cutting me. So what's the next option? So one of the doctors, I had 2 male doctors and a woman doctor. She was like, I can give you a shot of adrenaline. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I'm gonna just let you know that your heart rate is going to spike like crazy. You're gonna feel like you're possibly on drugs. You're gonna be like very, very amped and very antsy. Your body's gonna feel really crazy, but if it stabilizes the baby, we should be fine. I'm like, okay, give me the shot. They give me my first shot in my right arm, and I'm like, no, in my left arm, because I told them I was right-handed. So they gave it to me in my left arm, and I'm like, this bitch feels like lava. It burned so bad, and instantly it felt like my heart was on 1,000. Like, I felt like I had did a line of coke or something, like what you see in the movies when they're like all freaking hyped up and shit. I felt like that. I was like, oh my god, is my heart gonna beat out my chest? They were like, you're fine, but the baby's heart rate is stabilizing, so everything is good. And I'm like, cool. And then so this is around like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then around, I think it was like, around 4:30-ish. At 5 o'clock, they came back in the hospital, in the room, and they were like, we're probably gonna have to prep you. I was like, can you give me another shot of adrenaline? Because I'm almost all the way dilated. So if you can give me another shot of adrenaline, I can handle it, and then we can get this baby out. And they were like, well, this would be the last possible shot we can give you, because anymore your heart probably won't be able to take it. And I'm like, give me the shot. So they give me another shot of adrenaline, and it's like ultimate, like, I feel like I'm on drugs all over again. I'm like, this just fucking sucks, but my baby is fine. So his heart rate stabilized, and then I'm telling them, like, I feel everything, and this shit hurts, pressing the button, and they're like, another nurse comes in, she's like, let me check that. She's like, oh, for some reason it broke, so it wasn't administering. I'm like, okay, well, give me another machine. And she's like, let me go get them to give you another machine. So she goes out the room, and before she can make it out the room, the doctor's also checking me at the same time. He's like, oh, you're 10 centimeters, time to push. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't give you any more drugs. I was like, what? You said I can't do what now? She said, well, because it's time for you to push, I can't give you any more medication. It's not gonna, get here in time for me to get everything in order and give it to you by the time you push the baby out. And I'm like, so I'm pushing the baby out with no drugs? And she was like, yeah. She's like, but the first epidural you got earlier this morning, it shouldn't have worn off all the way. It shouldn't have, huh? That's interesting. That's interesting that you would say that. So they're like, everyone come in, get this, get that. Practice some pushes or whatever. The nurse that was with me, I didn't know she was pregnant at the time. I didn't find out until after I had my son. But she was pregnant, and it was her first kid. And I probably made her feel like this was going to be hell for her. And I'm so sorry to you, nurse. I don't even know what your name is, so I'm so sorry. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, she's like, push like you have to take a dump. I'm starting to push, and I can feel him sliding down into my hip. And I'm like, and he's in my hip on my right side. I'm like, oh my God, this pain is something I have never experienced in my life. It was so bad because imagine like someone, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it just felt like a heavy ass bowling ball, in my hip. And I was like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, the baby's coming through the canal, this and the other. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is beyond me. And I start pushing, and she feels, and she's like, I can feel the baby's head. You're doing so good. Just keep pushing, do your counts or whatever. And I'm just like, at this point, my body starts to shake. Like, my legs are shaking from the pain. And I'm like trying to make sure that I'm not like getting too flustered to the point where I kind of psych myself out, and then I would have to get a C-section because I'm exhausted. I did not get to sleep. I was hungry as hell, and my body was just like, okay, this pain is a lot for us. And so I'm like shaking and pushing and pushing. And every time I pushed and I stopped pushing to like catch my breath to push again, he slid right back in. And I was like, oh no, my baby has a big ass head. He's going to be stuck. Like, what am I going to do? My sister is filming. Clifford is on my left side and my mom was on my right side. They're both holding my legs. Like, they're both looking like, oh, we see hair. And I'm like, okay, but I don't see the baby. Like, where's the baby? They're like, do you want us, because they had this large, like, floor length mirror. They're like, do you want me to put the mirror right here so you can see? And at the time I didn't have my contacts in. I had glasses. I was like, no, I don't want to see anything. She's recording it for me so I can see everything now. My sister was recording everything, and I was very hopeful that I would have this beautiful birth video where you see my face and you see like different angles, and she got straight cooch, like vagina central. All you saw zoomed in, because my mom had this large iPad. She zoomed in onto my vagina. All you see is vagina and baby head. Like, that is it. Like, you don't see anything. She's like zooming in, zooming out, like looking around, and it didn't register to me until recently when I watched it back, where mom was like, oh, get her face. I was like, don't get my face, and she was like, oh, I guess I can't get your face in the video. And I'm like, don't get my face. So that's why she was zoomed in on that. So next time I will know. But so I'm pushing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels like it's not going anywhere. I look at the clock. I'm like, so I've been pushing for 30 to 45 minutes and there's no baby. Where's my baby? Like, get this baby out of me so I can hold my baby. I want to see what he looks like. I want to see if he smells like baby yet, or if he just smells like, insides. I don't know, like fluids, whatever they smell like when they first come out. And I'm like telling myself, like, girl, you're gonna have to push. Like, you're gonna have to push. So I'm pushing. And they're like, oh my gosh, we see all his hair. So freaking hairy. I see them pouring oil. I don't know what kind of oil it was. Castor oil, coconut oil, baby oil, something. It was some type of oil, but they were pouring, like, they were literally cracking open bottles and bottles of oil and cracking it open. And I see the doctor, like, I can feel it, because at this point I don't have an epidural. So I feel everything. It's burning, it's hurting, it's still cramping. The cramps aren't even bothering me at this point. Like, it's burning and my hip is hurting. And so I can literally feel like the pinching and all that stuff. And they go and they're pushing. They're like, push. So I'm like pushing. And then his head pops out. And that, like, when you get to the big part of your head, like by your ears, I'm like, and literally in the video, I'm like, ow, like, because it's literally a ring of fire. That's what it feels like. Someone just set my whole crotch on fire, because it was burning so bad. And then I'm pushing. They're like, his head is out. And I'm like, yes. And they're like, don't push yet. And I'm like, nah, I'm about to push. So my body automatically did it. I wasn't even really trying to push. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna push. I'm telling myself, like, don't push. My body's like, no, we're pushing. And I push again, and the baby comes out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Like, I didn't even know what to expect, what feeling. It was like, as soon as he was born, it was like euphoric, and I was in a daze. I was just like, oh my gosh, did I just do that? I can't believe I just did that. In pain and all, but I did it natural. Drugs was gone at that point, so I was all natural. And as soon as they took the baby, like, I thought they were gonna put him on me, so you can have that little skin to skin action with all the, like, juices on, which I didn't mind. I wasn't like, ew, because it's my body, it's natural. My baby's been swimming in it for 9 months, like. So I was like, oh, they're gonna put the baby on me. No, they took my baby and they put him on the table, and I was like, hold up, what's going on? Where my baby at? I didn't hear him cry. And then all of a sudden you hear the little, and I'm like, oh, he's so cute. Still haven't seen my baby. They didn't even show me my baby. I was like, where's my kid? What does he look like? What color is he? Does he have a lot of hair? Is his fingernails grown? Does he have long lashes? Like, what does he look like? And as soon as they took the baby, everybody that was next to me, my mom, my sweetheart, my sister, they all left me and they went to my baby. And they were like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, he looks like mom. Oh, he looks like dad. Oh, he has large feet. Oh, he has big hands. And I'm like, who baby is that? Who got big feet and large hands? When does this happen? And, yeah, they left me over there with the doctor. The doctor was like, I'm sorry, but I have to stitch you up. So I'm like, go ahead, throw a little extra stitch in there for me. So she stitched me, or was it the girl that delivered me? At that point, no, the boy delivered me, but the other guy delivered me. So he stitched me up, and, I had to push out the placenta, which it didn't feel like, it wasn't as bad. Like, a lot of people were like, it was worse than delivering the baby, but it honestly was not. Like, I don't think it was at all. So they, pushed my stomach. They were like, oh, you don't have to push. And I pushed again anyway, and the placenta came out, and that was that. And, they were taking pictures of Chandler and filming him, and they're like, oh, he's so cute. And my mom started making phone calls. He's here. And you could just hear it in her voice. She was like damn near in tears, like, he's here. He's so handsome. He's big. He's blah, blah, blah. He has so much hair. I'm like, don't post no pictures of my baby. That's the first thing that came to mind, because I hate when people post pictures of brand new babies fresh out the cooch, didn't take a bath yet, still got stuff all in their head shaped weird. I didn't know what my baby's head shape looked like. Don't be posting my baby on the internet. I ain't even seen my baby yet. So she was like, I'm not gonna post him, I'm just gonna take pictures. I'm like, okay, good. So then they wrap him up, they clean him off, they wrap him up, and they bring him over to me, and I'm just like, oh, this is my kid. Like, this is mine. And at that moment, I felt like I still didn't register like I really had a human. Like, I really had a little human of my own. And they, they were like, let's try to feed him. So they were like, are you going to breastfeed or bottle feed? I was like, I'm going to breastfeed. I'm going to be breastfeeding until I lose all this baby weight. I'm going to snap back. Ciao. Simple minded. And so they're like, oh, this is how you're gonna latch, and this and the other. And they come in, they put him on my boob, and then he's like eating, and I'm like, oh, he's so cute. He's like a little squishy baby. And thankfully, like, he wasn't one of those babies when they came out they looked like mush, because I feel like a lot of babies when they're born, they just look like nothing. They're just features that aren't developed. They're all squished together. They're all like chunky and slimy and wobbly looking. I don't know, like, they look like slime. Everything just kind of melts together. There's no like real structure yet, but he had a little bit of structure to him, and he was already starting to peel. So I'm like, maybe it was past my due date. Maybe we got pregnant a little bit before Valentine's Day, because that's a possibility. And he was like perfect. He was 7 pounds 15 ounces. They were like, oh, he's a big boy. And I'm like, damn. They were like, he was literally 1 ounce off of being 8 pounds, and you did that, girl. You did that. And I was like, damn, I really delivered that big ass baby. And which is crazy, because when I was born, I was like 6 pounds. I think I might have been 6 pounds flat, or 6 pounds 8 ounces. I don't remember. Or 6 pounds 6 ounces. I don't know. I was in the 6 pound range. And I think Clifford was in the 6 pound range. So to have a 7, almost 8 pound baby, I was like, where did you come from? Like, this is crazy. But I was enjoying my pregnancy. I was enjoying the food. I was eating up. I was grubbing down. Like, nothing was off limits for me except for sushi, which really broke my heart when they were like, you can't eat raw fish. And I was like, you sure I don't do that in Korea? Because I'm pretty sure, in the Japanese culture, somebody eating sushi or something while they're pregnant. It gotta be. Like, I can't do it. Because I literally craved sushi my entire pregnancy, because I knew I couldn't have it. I didn't have any crazy cravings. The first month, it was like McDonald's breakfast, like the McGriddles. The second month was like Wingstop. And then the third month was In-N-Out. And In-N-Out at like, I don't know, I think it had to be like 11 o'clock at night, like closing pretty much. That's when I wanted it. Apart from that, like after that, I didn't have any cravings. I wasn't like, I have to eat this every day, or I want to have that, or I want to drink that. No, I was fine. Everything was normal. I was just getting a belly. That was it. Like, my belly was growing, my baby was growing, but I didn't have any crazy cravings or anything like that. But yeah, that was like, yeah, I think that was like my biggest thing. It was just like, I wanted sushi and I know I couldn't have it. And that's the only reason why I wanted it as bad as I did when I was pregnant. So the first thing that I wanted to eat after having a baby was sushi. And guess what I ate? It was not sushi. I did not eat sushi. I don't even recall what I ate after I had Chandler, but it definitely was not sushi. But we definitely ate the hospital food. We didn't like go out and buy food or have anybody. I don't think at that time they had Uber Eats and stuff like that. So I didn't have anyone like delivering food to us or anything. Everyone came in and they were like, my stepdad was there. He ended up meeting like one of his friends back from high school. He worked at the hospital. He was a nurse and he worked with, with kids. And he was like, oh, your daughter was in there. I could have went in there and made sure everything was straight. No, you couldn't have, sir. I was like, I didn't want nobody in here. I barely wanted to be in here. Like, I was at the point where it was like, come on now. I don't want to do this anymore. Just get it out. But like my labor, realistically speaking, looking back on it, I don't think my labor was like that bad. It wasn't that traumatic. I think the most traumatic thing that happened during my labor and delivery was when they were like, his heart rate is dropping and we need to stabilize him, or we're gonna have to prep you for a C-section because we don't want to lose you and the baby. And I was like, I don't want to lose me and the baby either. But I knew what I wanted, and if there was another possibility, then I wanted to explore that possibility first. I know a lot of people are probably like, girl, if they say they needed to cut you, you should have let them cut you the first time. I was like, no, because I wasn't aware of this until I had a kid. At the time I was 22, so I was still on my mom's insurance and stuff. When we got the hospital bill, which we didn't pay for, but when we got the hospital bill, I was like, damn, it's like 15 to 20 racks to give birth to, like a vaginal birth to a baby. But then it's like double that, like almost almost $40,000 to have a cesarean. Like the hospital gets paid that much. And I was like, nah, y'all just be trying to push for these C-sections just so motherfuckers can get paid. I'm good. Like, that wasn't my mindset back then. My mindset was more so like, I really want to have a vaginal birth. If you guys do not know, my sweetheart has a kid prior to our relationship, and that was a cesarean. And so I wanted to really give him that experience of having a vaginal birth, and I wanted to experience a vaginal birth. My mom did a vaginal birth with 2 of her 3 kids. The third one was breech, so she had to get a C-section, but if he wasn't breech, then she would have had a vaginal birth too. But I really wanted to experience vaginal birth and like that whole process, and that was like my only request, vaginal birth. And my sister, my mom, and my sweetheart being in the room when I gave birth to Chandler. And that's exactly what I got. I got a vaginal birth, and I got exactly who I wanted to have in the room. I know now, because of COVID, I probably wouldn't be able to have like all those people, but I would still knocking shit over. I would still love to have like those same 3 people, because I feel like my support system is really what got me through the entire ordeal. Like, even though Clifford wasn't really like, come on babe, push, I think he was more so like, damn, this is what this shit look like. I think that was his mindset more so than just like push. But he was still very supportive. Like, he was holding my hand. He was like, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a good job. And I didn't even realize I didn't hear any of that shit. I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't hear none of that when it was going on. But when I watched the video back, I heard it all, and I was like, dang, that was so sweet. He was so supportive. And I thought in my mind, I was like, when I have this baby, I'm gonna be crying, I'm gonna be so happy. I think I was in shock. I think more than anything, I was in shock that I actually gave birth to a human. So I didn't like cry or do that whole like, oh my gosh, my baby's here. I didn't do any of that. It was just like, wow, I just did that, and he just came for me, and now I get to love him forever type stuff. If I can do it all over again, would I do it differently? Absolutely not. Like, I'd probably film it differently. It'd probably look a lot better. It'd look a lot better than it does now. But I mean, apart from that, because I would love to like, show people the video, and just for like my preference or how I would envision it to be, that's what I would want. But I mean, in all honesty, it was a beautiful experience all in all. Like, I am happy with my team. My team did a really great job at delivering and making sure he was good and taking care of us. And, you know, they came in to the room after you give birth in one room, and then they take you to another room, and that's the room that you'll stay in while you recover until it's time for you to go home. And when we went to the other room, it was small as hell. I was like, damn, why this room so small? This shit was crazy. It was so little. We had a bathroom. They didn't even have a pull-out bed for Clifford. They had like a seat, like a chair, pull-out chair-ish situation. And so he had to sleep on that. It got to the point where, like, because I started to run a fever because of the adrenaline shots. I started to run a fever, so they had to observe me for an additional day. And yeah, I mean, he ended up sleeping in the bed with me. So it was me, him, and then Chandler was in like the little bassinet next to us in the bed, or next to the bed or whatever. But like, all in all, like, the experience was really good. I would love to experience childbirth again. And like, I mean, there's some things that I would love to change as far as like I said, filming, and then maybe, get my hair braided, because my hair was not braided. I definitely had a sloppy ass bun on the top of my head that I felt like it just made the whole situation for me just look a lot worse, because my hair was looking crazy as hell. But apart from that, I'm happy I was able to experience that. Even if I were to never have another kid again, like, that experience alone just took it over the edge for me and really taught me to be proud of the capabilities that my body has like created. Like, I have been able to literally give birth to a human. Like, it's just the craziest shit ever. And although it was one of the probably the most painful thing, I feel like I died maybe like 10 times and came back to life, it was still a great experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So that was my birth story. I know it's kind of long, but it was a lot of stuff that happened in between, like waking up that morning and then having him. So I had him at like 6:08 in the morning, or sorry, in the afternoon, in the evening. And yeah, it was just like such a good experience that I would not mind doing it again. Like, I know some people are like, I had one baby, I don't want to have no more. No, I would definitely have another kid. My cat is like on the foil on the floor. Oh my gosh, guys. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to my birth story. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. If you guys want to know more about like parenting and how I parent, or just like, I guess after I came home from the hospital, what was that like? Because Clifford and I did not live in the same house together, and like how we went from there to now being homeowners and living together and all that good stuff. I could definitely do another episode. Just let me know, either on the podcast comments or on YouTube comments. Thank you guys so much for listening to my story. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting from my podcast and my podcast YouTube videos, and as well as like all the follows on all of my social media and on my website, because you guys have been blowing up my website and I really, really appreciate it. My Iphanniebgentle podcast website, you guys have been blowing it up and making sure you guys are like interacting with me and telling me like what you guys like, what you guys want me to talk more about, if you guys want more audience, or more guests and their experiences and stuff like that. So I have been listening and I have been making notes, and we will get right into that in the next few episodes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to my birth story. I am so happy that you guys are able to come on this journey with me, my motherhood journey, and me being able to talk about it, because I don't know, there's some things that I just never felt like I wanted to talk about, or I was like comfortable enough to talk about, and my birth story was one of them. But I decided to finally bite the bullet and do it, and I'm happy I did, because even reminiscing about it, it's just like, damn, that was such a beautiful time in my life. And I kind of took advantage of it and took it for granted, because I feel like so many people, they don't get the opportunity to at least have one child, much less have more than one. And I was blessed enough to have one and actually like really feel every single emotion and go through every single motion while giving birth. So that is all for this episode. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I will see you guys in my next one. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.